So you've just watched the video of graphing a single linear inequality, but in this unit we're working on graphing a system of things. So how you graph a system of linear inequalities is just the same as graphing one, you're just repeating the process for that second line. So we're going to continue to graph as usual. We're going to graph the slope and the appropriate y-intercept for each inequality on the same coordinate plane. We're going to remember that we use a dotted line for less than or greater than, and a solid line, and I just spelled solid totally wrong, a solid line for less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. So remember when we created that little chart, so we'll use it again. We'll create a box of 4. Remember that we can have solid and dotted, above and below. These categories don't matter as much as what the appropriate sign is for each box. So if I put above and below last time, that's totally okay. So if I have a solid and I want to shade above, that's greater than or equal to. If I need a solid line and I'm shading below, that's a less than or equal to. If I have a dotted and shading above, that's greater than. Dotted and shading below, that's a less than. So that'll help us with this third step to remember. We're going to place your pencil on the y-intercept because we use that y-intercept to determine where we're going to shade. For greater than and equal to or just greater than, we shade above. For less than or equal to or less than, we shade below. And again, recreating this chart will help you with that. The solution in this section is where all the shadings overlap. Now in class, I'm going to encourage you to use colored pencils. I'll have some colored pencils laid out for y'all so you can see exactly where those two different colors overlap. These two graphs are going to overlap. So let's start with question number 2, since it's already in a y equals, before we remind ourselves in number 1 how to solve for y. So here in number 2, I'm going to choose a color. This first one is already ready to graph for me. I'm going to start my y-intercept at 2, and I have a slope of 1. So I'm going to go up 1 and over 1, down and to the left. It's a positive slope. And it's a greater than or equal to sign. So here's my greater than or equal to sign. That tells me it's solid and I'm shading above. So I'm going to connect all my points then now, the best that I can. From my y-intercept, I'm shading above. So I'm just going to lightly color in with my pen here, so I know the solutions to that inequality are there. Well, what's a little bit different is this x. If I'm graphing an x equals line, remember that's a vertical line at x equals a -2. That's a less than or equal to sign, so it's going to be solid. And I'm going to shade below. So first let's make that a solid vertical line. Now, I want to shade less than -2, and those are x values less than -2. So in this case, it's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to shade over here. So where my pink and where my blue overlap, that is going to be my solution. So my pink and my blue, I'm going to kind of color on it, overlap here in this area. Okay, so any point in this overlapped region is a solution. Okay. It's also important to notice I had two solid lines. That means their intersection may also be a solution, but only because they were two solid lines. That's only because we graphed two solid lines. So why don't you take a minute, pause the video, and try graphing the next two, 3 and 4. Okay, so let's see how well our answers are. Okay, I finished both, so I encouraged you to pause the video and try them. My overlapped region is in here. Now notice we have a solid and a dotted line. So the intersection is not a solution. That dotted line interrupts that. Okay. So when we have a solid and a dotted line, that intersection is not a solution. Only the ordered pairs in this overlapped shaded region. Same thing happens in number 4. Okay. Over here is where my overlap shaded region is. So any of those ordered pairs that's overlapped in pink and blue will be a solution to this system. As you graph these, I would encourage you, you should, graph one at a time in shade so you're not confused on where to go. So let's finish these notes by reminding ourselves how to solve for y in graph. So we're going to look up here at example number 1. So in this first example, I need to get y by itself. So I'm going to subtract x. I'm going to get y greater than a negative x plus 5. And I'll graph it. So y-intercept of 5 with a negative 1 slope. That is going to be a dotted line. And it's a greater than sign, so we're going to shade this above piece here. For my blue line here, my second line, I'm going to have to subtract that 2x. I'm going to get a negative 4y greater than a negative 2x plus 4. And I'm going to have to divide each piece by a negative 4. So that's going to give me a y, a negative 2 divided by negative 4. That becomes positive and reduces to 1/2. Negative 4 can go into 4 a negative 1 times. Now, why didn't I write my inequality sign down now? That's because I've divided by a negative. So what should I do with this sign? I should flip it. So I'll start with my negative 1 y-intercept, up 1 and over 2, up 1 and over 2. It's still going to be a dashed line here. And now I'm shading below. So greater than what's above, I'm going to shade below this line. So I just have a little itty bit of a solution right in here. Your next few pages are going to help you practice this lesson. You may begin.